According to Tesla's website, they are starting Hardware 3 upgrades for cars that currently have Hardware 2, which is big news because up until now, it's only been Hardware 2.5 to Hardware 3. And while this is really exciting, there's a little more that goes into it for Hardware 2 owners than just getting that full self-driving computer. And unless Tesla announces something else, it may lead to Hardware 2 owners needing to pay for another upgrade in order to get all the full self-driving features that they're expecting. So let's talk about the difference between Hardware 2, Hardware 2.5, and Hardware 3, and what you're going to have to do to go from Hardware 2 to Hardware 3 and get all the features that you want. If you enjoy this video, please hit like and get subscribed. So according to Tesla's website, they are now scheduling upgrades for Hardware 2 cars to go to Hardware 3. Now, I'll start off by saying if you have a Model 3, all Model 3s initially shipped with Hardware 2.5 and MCU2, which we'll talk more about in a second. There are no Tesla Model 3s that have Hardware 2 or MCU1. So after Mobileye and Tesla split apart, Tesla had to design their own self-driving suite of hardware and software. That led to Tesla's enhanced autopilot with Hardware 2. When buying a car in the Hardware 2 days, owners could either buy enhanced autopilot for $5,000 or add on full self-driving for $3,000 for a total price of full self-driving of $8,000. Now back then, full self-driving was no different. Spending that extra $3,000 just got you the promise of future software updates, and Tesla did say if you need any hardware upgrades in the future, you'll also get those included with that $3,000. Since then, a lot has changed, but basically these days, the cars come with standard autopilot, which is lane keep assist and speed keep, and if you want any of the more advanced features, like navigate on autopilot, smart summon, auto park, things like that, you have to pay an additional $7,000 or starting in July, an additional $8,000 for full self-driving. So Hardware 2 came out in 2016, and in 2017, Tesla made some upgrades to Hardware 2, and they called it Hardware 2.5. This included an updated radar and a different filter on the cameras. So the cameras are the same. They're the same amount of cameras, and they're in the same spots in Hardware 2.5. Besides the Model 3 got the in-cabin one, which the S and X still do not have to this day. But the cameras got an additional filter. So in Hardware 2, the cameras are black and white, and in Hardware 2.5, the cameras can see color. Well, after this change in 2018, along with the Model 3, Tesla upgraded the MCU, or Media Control Unit, and that is called MCU2. So all current Teslas ship with MCU2. And this gives you a faster processor, a redundant GPU, and some other improvements, but it allows things that new Tesla vehicles give you, like Sentry Mode recording, dash cam recording, all the games you get, the Netflix, YouTube, all that kind of stuff, along with just general improvements. The performance of MCU2, when you're just using the screen, moving around the map, stuff like that, is much smoother. There is no lag, where if you use an older MCU1 car, it's a little laggy, the screen isn't very responsive, and things like that. Well, after this change, Tesla announced another upgrade to their autopilot hardware, which brings us to what's shipped in cars today, Hardware 3. Well, that Hardware 3 upgrade just upgrades the autopilot computer and gives you much more processing power. So if you have Hardware 2.5 in your S, X, or 3, it's as simple as swapping that out. You can take your car to Tesla. They say it takes about an hour. For me, it took about 24 hours. Most people say it takes 3 or 4 hours for them. But the process is always changing, so that time may be different now. So if you purchased your car and you purchase full self-driving, and your car had Hardware 2.5, eventually Tesla is supposed to contact you, or they already did. You take your car to them, or some people are actually having Tesla come to them at home or work, and they can replace that board for you, and then boom, you have Hardware 3. There is no difference in that car from a new car rolling off the line with Hardware 3. Now, I do get this question very often. If you want your Hardware 3 upgrade, and you have Hardware 2 or Hardware 2.5, whatever, you can go into your Tesla app, go to the Schedule Service section, and then just click Other at the bottom, Something Else, hit Next. In this window, you want to type Hardware 3 Upgrade, and then you hit Next. You put in your location if you want to do it at home or work. You can schedule that and Tesla will get back to you, but keep in mind this is VIN dependent, so if your VIN has not been called for the Hardware 3 upgrade, Tesla will not be able to do it. They are not just putting random computers into cars. They are assigning Hardware 3 to specific cars, and when your VIN is called, they sometimes will let you know and have you come in, but if they don't and you request it and your VIN is called, then they'll say, oh, okay, you're good. Come on in, let's do that Hardware 3 upgrade. Again, for me, I had to leave my car overnight. I actually left it there for 2 days, but these days I hear it's going a lot faster, and sometimes Tesla will even come to you to do the service. So hardware 2.5 to hardware 3 upgrades have been happening for a few months now. I got mine upgraded back in January or February, I believe. So until we got some recent updates with visualizations on the screen, and now the newer stopping at stop signs and stoplights, hardware 2 and hardware 2.5 and hardware 3 weren't all that different. Hardware 2 can still do navigate on autopilot, it can do smart summon, but cars with hardware 2, incidentally, do not have MCU2. They only have MCU1. So those cars cannot do things like play Cuphead, YouTube, Netflix. They do have Sentry mode, but the Sentry mode doesn't actually record anything. It's more just to deter people. It puts the message on the screen, but none of the cameras will actually record what's going on. They don't have the dash cam feature while you're driving. And because of some of the differences I talked about earlier, hardware 2 is missing just a few things that hardware 2.5 and hardware 3 have. So a bit weaker radar. The steering rack, I guess, is a little different. I don't know the details on that. The wiring's a little different, and there's not as much redundancy as in hardware 3. So up until now, nobody has been upgraded from hardware 2 to hardware 3. Even though they could have bought their car 4 years ago, paid that extra $3,000, so a total of $8,000 for full self-driving, they can't use any of the full self-driving features yet until Tesla gives them this hardware 3 upgrade. So what is Tesla going to do? Are they going to change out the cameras or the filters on the cameras? Are they going to upgrade the radar? Are they going to upgrade the steering rack? I can't imagine they're going to do any of those things. While it's all possible, it doesn't seem very likely Tesla would do any of this. Now, I don't think they would sacrifice safety, but I do think they would sacrifice features to save a little bit of money. So Green on Twitter actually found hints that Tesla was working towards hardware 2 to hardware 3 upgrades in the code, but he said that he also found evidence that they are not going to update that radar, they are not going to update the steering rack. But the bigger problem I'm seeing here is that MCU discrepancy. So if you have MCU1, you can't even get the visualizations on the screen. Now, could Tesla enable this for MCU1? Of course it's possible, but it's not as powerful as a processor. You're already not getting as good of an experience when you're just interacting with the map, let alone doing other things like trying to use the browser. You can't watch YouTube while parked, you can't use Netflix, you can't play any of the games. Well, you can play some of them, but most of the games aren't accessible. Even on the website, when you talk about purchasing full self-driving, Tesla says you'll get access to more advanced driver assist features like navigate on autopilot, smart summon, auto lane change, and auto park. And then they go on to say the full self-driving computer upgrade does enable recording from all cameras with Sentry mode and dash cam for vehicles previously equipped with autopilot computer 2 or 2.5 paired with the infotainment upgrade. Now what's the infotainment upgrade? Well, that's upgrading your MCU from MCU1 to MCU2. And that costs $2,500 to do from Tesla. So 3-4 years ago, you buy a Tesla, you spend $8,000 for enhanced autopilot and full self-driving, and now finally comes the day you get your hardware 3 upgrade. All right, we're gonna stop at stop signs and stoplights. We're gonna be getting our Sentry mode. Oh wait, you now have to spend an additional $2,500 if you want to unlock those games, Sentry mode, maybe the visualizations on the screen. There's no way to know yet. So that's a little crazy because if you buy a Tesla today, you're spending $7,000 on full self-driving today. You get MCU2, you get all the full self-driving features, you get hardware 3, and then in a little over a month in July, the price is going up to $8,000. So not even until July, if you wait until July to order your Tesla, then you have to pay $8,000 for full self-driving. You're on the same page as all the people who bought their full self-driving 3 or 4 years ago, but you're still getting the MCU upgrade. And you're paying $8,000, whereas these people now have to pay an additional $2,500 to get all the features, get their car up to date. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and somebody has to pay for it. And you know, I guess Tesla can say, you're getting the full self-driving features we told you you're gonna get. You're just not gonna get Sentry mode, you're not gonna get these games or whatever. I guess technically they are delivering on their promise that they made when you paid that $3,000. Your car will stop at stop signs and stoplights. You'll get future updates that allow navigate in the city and stuff like that. So I don't know, kind of exciting news, but at the same time, a tiny bit of a letdown. You know, if you invested in Tesla earlier on, you paid all that money for full self-driving, you've been waiting all these years to have features that differentiate you from enhanced autopilot. Because back in the day, you pay that $5,000 for enhanced autopilot, you got everything. Up until today, you were getting everything besides the visualizations on the screen and the stop signs and stoplights. You got Smart Summon, you got Navigate on Autopilot, you had Auto Park, you had all the same stuff. So at this point, you still haven't gotten any benefits for your additional $3,000. I mean, imagine in 2016, you put that $3,000 into Tesla stock. It was floating around in the 200s, and your $3,000 today would be worth over 10 grand. You could buy that MCU upgrade, you could buy Full Self-Driving, and you'd still have more money, and you wouldn't have missed out on anything all these years. So if you have an older Tesla with Hardware 2, let me know your thoughts on this. You do have MCU 1 if you have Hardware 2. You also could have MCU 1 with Hardware 2.5. There was a little bit of a overlay there where you were getting Hardware 2.5 but also MCU 1. So I don't know, it's going to be a little weird for those guys too, because they'll get their Hardware 3 upgrade, but they still won't have Sentry Mode. They still won't have, the games and stuff. So let me know if you're going to do that upgrade, if you're going to pay the $2,500 for MCU 1. If you think this is fair, not a big deal, maybe to you, it doesn't matter. I'm really interested in your thoughts on this one. I'll be talking to you down in the comments, and you will see me in the next video.
So Autopilot and I are happily driving along